Hi, everyone. It's Dr. Arlene Diamco, the Multidimensional MD. Thank you so much for joining me. If you haven't already, please like and subscribe so you don't miss a video. My mission is to help bring spirit back to medicine because it was never meant to be separated in the first place. And I want to help normalize talking about the most important things in our lives. So for today's episode, I have a big topic, and I sat and meditated, and this is what came to me. And it's about water. 7 ways water helps you heal. This was a little intimidating for me. One, because I love water so much. And two, there's so much to talk about. And it's hard to do it in concisely, but I will do my best and to help you see so many different ways that water can help you heal. 7 different ways we're going to go through today. If you don't know, we are mostly water. So it's so important to be able to talk about this and to really pay attention to the water in our lives. By volume, we are about 2/3 water, depending on age. We're about like 60% to 75%. So newborns, they are so fluid. They're about 75% water. And then through life, it becomes less, about 65% or somewhat less in adults. But that's by volume. So water molecules are smaller than other molecules in our body. And so we are actually 99% water by the cells in our body. So that is incredible. And if you haven't paid much attention to your water now, then that should motivate you to do it because it's so important for life. It's so important for health. And I'm very excited to be able to go through all these details about it that I love. And for those of you that are interested, my sign is Pisces, so it's mostly water. And in my chart, I have so much water in my chart. So it's a way that helps me kind of be more fluid and flow. But we are all mostly water, so we can all kind of step into that fluidity and that flow. And throughout history, since the beginning of time, like water has been turned to for so many healing properties, from holy water to going to the beaches and the oceans to healing spas and baths, or just being drawn to nature's wonders of water, like waterfalls and brooks and oceans. And it's important in many different religions as well. So there are so many amazing properties about water. There are so many things that are kind of quirky about water compared to other different kinds of materials. But I'm going to talk about it more in terms of hydration. And the first one I'm going to talk about is in terms of hydration. So, the main rule of thumb is to stay hydrated because our needs can change depending on how active you are, depending on how dehydrated you are. So if you're behind or if you're ahead, then it's about making sure that your urine is a pale yellow, kind of a straw-colored yellow. And the Institute of Medicine has some other guidelines on that. So if you're a child, you need about 5 cups a day of water. And for women, you need about 9 cups. For men, you actually need more than that, about 13 cups a day. Same if you are breastfeeding or if you're pregnant, just because your water intake will be so much more. And there are so many signs if you need water. And sometimes we don't think about all of them, like when we're dehydrated. You could have dry skin. Of course, you could be thirsty. You could have more pronounced wrinkles. You could have a dry mouth. You could be tired and fatigued. Your mucus might be thicker. So if you have a cold, it's really important to stay hydrated. You could have headaches, trouble thinking, and can also affect our immune systems, our ability to fight off illnesses. It can interfere with our digestion and can make you more constipated and make it more difficult to digest our food, and can interfere with your vision as well. So we want to be able to get enough water. And it doesn't mean that you have to overload yourself with water, because I feel like it tends to be in our culture that we want to get more of a good thing. And that can be actually dangerous, because you can dilute all your electrolytes if you have too much water. So just pay attention when you're going to the bathroom. You really just want to aim for that pale yellow. If it's more concentrated or dark yellow, you know you're behind. By the time you're feeling thirsty, you are already behind. So the second thing about water in terms of healing is hydrotherapy. So this is so easy. We're just going to start with like some of the more obvious things, and I'm going to get into more of the details and some things you might not have heard about. But I want to keep it simple as well. So hydrotherapy, that can just be simply going into a warm bath or going into a steam bath. So this helps to open up the pores and helps to release toxins for the body. It's very relaxing and eases tension from muscles. And if you take a bath, if you add salt to that, like a sea salt or an Epsom salt, now it's more like you're bathing in the ocean. So the salt helps to both draw out the toxins with the water and also can be nourishing. And so those are like very simple ways. I often recommend after an osteopathic treatment to do salt baths, because the body is healing, removing toxins, and can help it do that. And to also like ease out any soreness someone might have, like after a massage or other kind of treatment. You can also do like alternating like hot and cold showers, and that can help to kind of pump the nervous system to bring the blood. When it's cold, the blood kind of goes towards the core, and when it's warm, the blood kind of opens up. So to the extremities, to the arms and legs. And so in that way, you're kind of like pumping your whole system. So there's different ways to do it, and do it in a way that feels good to you. Number 3 is that water carries nutrients. So it's one of the best solvents. And it's because like water has this polarity to it. So, you know, it's H2O. I had to draw it out for you. So we have your oxygen there. And then you have your 2 little hydrogens. You see that? So, so this side is more positively charged, and this side is more negatively charged. So in that way, it can dissolve all different kinds of substances, and it's one of the best way to get minerals and all different kinds of vitamins. I use it in of course, like for herbal teas, which is a great way to nourish yourself. I have like all the different teas that I make here. And it's also a great way to assimilate these things, because if you're having trouble with your digestion, it's much easier to take it through a water solution than through trying to digest through a capsule or a tablet, or to break down food that's like more solid. So often when people are debilitated or ill, then that's why we're turning to soups and liquids and things that are more easily digested. So it's a great way to do that. And also it carries, there's a reason why we use it for the flower essences and for other remedies, from the herbal remedies, extracts and the tinctures, and the flower essences to be diluted into the water, and as well as other different kinds of remedies. So number 4, water music. You know, from the rain to the babbling brooks and the rivers, and that sound of water flowing can be very calming to ourselves. It helps to uplift our spirits and just helps to ease the mind. And I like to do this with thinking about that mindful photography or mindful videography. Sometimes when I'll go out in nature, if I find like a babbling brook, or like the nice sounds of a river flowing and no one's nearby, then I'll take a little video clip because I just love to have those sounds. And they include these in so many different tracks, like in terms of like nature sound tracks for relaxing, calming sounds. So it's that health is in the flow, and that sound of the music helps remind us that that health is in the flow. And I know I talked about this before, but my kids love to go out into the rain when it's pouring. No lightning, but it's just like a nice downpour. And my oldest said she just heard the sound of the music and it sounded so beautiful that she wanted to go outside and hear it and feel it. And just that rhythmic pitter patter of the rain just coming down. So yeah, so if you do get a video of that, then you have this visual and this audio that where you can like hear and see the water and have this multi-sensory experience and have it be healing in different ways like that. So number 5, water. This is my favorite, absolutely favorite property of water. Water holds messages. And this is something that Dr. Masaru Emoto studied about the hidden messages in water. And what he did was he took water samples from different places, and then water samples where maybe different music was played around them, or different intentions were said. And then he put them on little dishes and then froze them, and then took them into a room where it was still like very cold, and looked at it under a microscope to see the crystal formation. So after the ice was under the microscope, it starts to get warmed up a little bit, and then a little crystal would form at the top of it. And they look kind of like snowflakes, but every single one was unique. So what he found was, depending on the message that was kind of intended around the water, or meditated with the water, or the source the water came from, or depending on the music that was played, that different crystals were formed. And I'll just show you some. And this is just so beautiful. So these are pictures of water crystals that formed when thank you was said in different languages. And what I love is that, you know, there's some similarities there because it's thank you, but it's in different languages. So similarities and differences. And I don't want to show you too many pictures of when the water was maybe ignored, or something more negative was intended, but I'm going to show you one just so you have some comparison there. So the top photo right here is when they said, let's do it, in Japanese. So a more encouraging way of, yeah, let's do this. And then the bottom one was more an order or command, and said, do it. So you see like how much more beautiful that crystal formation is on the top versus the bottom. And he has so many examples of this. He's already passed, but he has so much research, and actually he collaborated with other researchers around the world, which I love, because you see how universal this theme is to life and to health. And he got together, he actually asked another researcher, Lynn McTaggart. She was actually a journalist, but she started writing about the power of intention. So this is one of her books. And so Dr. Emoto invited her to Japan to do a water experiment. And it was having a large group of people meditate or say intention over a body of water there that was polluted. And what they found was the same thing. And they also collaborated with another researcher. I believe it was Dr. Konstantin Korikov from St. Petersburg. And she had also collaborated with Dr. Rustam Roy from Pennsylvania State University. So these are people from all over the world. And so they looked at the water before and after. About 500 plus people meditated or set an intention about the water. And it was amazing what they saw. So the same sort of things that you saw with the crystal pictures that Dr. Emoto took, that it went from something that was disorganized to something more beautiful. And that is, I mean, that has so many implications in terms of just our lives and what it means of what we're thinking and what the messages that the body, our bodies of water are holding in us. Because again, we're mostly water. And so if our thoughts are keep going, they're kind of these intentions, even if they're silent, then we don't say them out loud. Their vibrations are they're vibrational waves in our body. They're literally like just circuits going around. And so the water can hold those messages and actually can amplify it. And so it's really important to know and to think about. So then we can be more intentional about our thoughts and what we want to create. So yeah. And then thinking, how connected we are through water. I mean, water really helps connect us through time and space, because we don't think about it this much, but we are drinking the same water that our ancestors drank. We are literally drinking the same water that was around since the dinosaurs. So it is in this, there's a water cycle, and we're in part of this cycle in nature. And I'll put that little picture up there. So the kids, study this in school, where the water evaporates with the sun and the heat, and then condenses and forms the clouds and the precipitation. The rain comes down, and then it collects into the streams and the oceans again, and the cycle just goes around and around. And the neat thing is, I went to a workshop once. It was with osteopathy and energy and nature. And we went out into nature to feel that water cycle. And it was really phenomenal just to kind of feel the energy of water flowing. And again, the health is always in the flow. When I think about this, that we are sending these messages out, and then they're carried through space and time. So part of the water that's here carries messages from the past, from our ancestors. But then also the water that we are leaving behind, it's like we're sending messages to the future, to generations after us, to our children. And so when we are polluting our oceans and our rivers, then what kind of message is that sending into the future? And then I think about Dr. Emoto's water crystals and what kind of future that holds if we're sending that. So, but we have a choice right now, right? That we can send messages of beauty and love going forward and restore the earth to its natural beauty for ourselves, for our own lives, for all the beings on the earth, and for future generations. And then this leads me into the last thing I wanted to talk about with water, is that water can store electrical charge. There's actually 4 phases of water, and this is so interesting because this is newer research and not necessarily what we had learned in school. We learned about the 3 phases of water, right? It was that water is a gas, which is water vapor, and then a liquid, the water we drink, and then a solid. So that's ice. And the clouds are actually made of all of these different states of water, but there's actually a 4th state to water. And this is so neat. We've been talking about this in my osteopathy classes, and that fourth state of water is occurs when water is next to something that is hydrophilic. So hydrophilic means water loving. That's hydrophilic. So when water is next to something hydrophilic, then it will absorb radiant energy from light. And say, here's the water here. But that energy will actually start to split the water so that a charge forms here that's more negative, and then the positive charge is here. In this negative zone, where you have more electrons, is called the exclusion zone, or easy. So I know we're getting like a little bit more technical here, but I thought that this was so neat and important. So this is called the exclusion zone because actually in that zone, it pushes out like any other particles, and so it's really kind of neat because it's sort of like pure water. And when we think about like this occurs with radiant energy, so light, and then next to a water loving membrane or water loving surface. Well, the cells in our body, the cell membranes, the interior and exterior of the cell membrane is a water loving membrane. So it is actually forming this exclusion zone. And so this is actually really important for health. And there are certain things that help support it, which is just sunlight and infrared light, and anything that is more healthy, they're finding that supports this exclusion zone water, or easy water. So like juiced vegetables has more easy water, or any nourishing food and herbs like turmeric helps, or coconut water has more easy water in it. And this is a more structured or organized water. And this is really fascinating because when you split it into a charge, there's so much potential there. Like you are literally creating a battery, and you are generating electricity. So water can hold a lot of electricity in it. And I like to think about this in terms of all the water that's like flowing through our body, because it is a way that it can send these messages all throughout our body, from the heart, just moving it through. Then, and the heart is also in this huge electrical field, but then somehow the water can, remember, carry those messages, and it can also carry it with its electrical charge, the sound of the water flowing. So even within us, that tiny sound, the sound of the heartbeat, the sound flowing through. I mean, we're not always aware of it, but if you put a stethoscope on, you can hear it loud and clear. And so then you have that electrical charge, that sound, the energy, and it also creates this electromagnetic energy. And like all things, water also emits light as well, emits photons. So I know this is getting like way more detailed, but this is just so exciting for me, how many ways water can carry messages and carry it through time and space, helps to connect us all, helps us to feel one, really part of that oneness, because at some point the water recycles, and we are literally drinking the same water that other people have drank, or the same water that's come from the rain, the same water that's been in the rivers. It goes through this whole cycle. and connects us all. And if we are more intentional about it, then we can use water for our health in a much more powerful way. So I hope that gives you some things to think about, to reflect on, and ways to incorporate more healing powers of water into your life. So thank you so much for joining me. I know this was a bit of a tricky topic for me today because there is so much and it can get somewhat technical, but there are details I wanted to include as well. And water is so amazing. And so don't forget to hydrate, to nourish yourself, to be intentional about the water you drink. And you could simply just hold the water before you drink it, just like you do before you have a meal, and to give thanks. And you can instantly change those water molecules into something that is even more healing for you. So lots of love to you. Please like and subscribe. You can also follow me on Instagram at All Worlds Health and on my website, allworldshealth.com. And I will see you next week with Maddie Fowler. We're going to be talking about the power of the mind. Take care. Bye.